Hello and welcome to another episode on Journey to Authenticity, a podcast helping you to become fully authentic on your journey to success. My name is Braden Belknap and I'm a human just like you, striving to build a dream life, all while I stay true to myself. But what if you struggle with your emotions? What if you struggle being single and really not having your optimal life right now? That's exactly why we have Ashley Joy Jordan coming into the podcast today, because she's gone through that all. She's struggled with heartbreak. She's struggled with the lack of loving herself. She's struggled with the comparison mindset of, I'm 24 years old and I'm not quite married as a Christian. That in mind, she's able to help you transform this so that you can find peace with where you're at now, so that you can ultimately get to living your dream life. That in mind, welcome to the show, Ashley.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. Time flies. We've known each other for a couple months now, and we scheduled this immediately.
Yeah.
And now we're here from a couple months ago, but it feels like it's been a week.
It's funny.
So life's been crazy over the last couple months, but I'm excited for the audience to hear all about your story and ultimately how they can start to transform their lives.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
So what inspired coaching for you?
Man, honestly, it was kind of a journey, a turn of events in my life that kind of led me here. Kind of where it starts, though, is a couple years ago. I felt like I had my life figured out, I was doing good as far as I knew. I had a boyfriend and we were talking about getting married. So I was so excited about that. I had a job that I loved. I was making a lot of money. I lived with my best friends. Everything was just finally working out for me, And I was just thrilled, but in a matter of just a few weeks, everything just crumbled to the ground. So I was doing summer sales at the time. I'm a sales bro.
It's a sales bro, always a sales bro.
So I was about to leave for a summer, and I was going to be in Ohio to do door-to-door sales. One of the hardest jobs out there, first of all. So that was my first problem. The second thing was that meant I was going to have to move away from my friends, this life I loved, and mostly my boyfriend. And we were talking about getting engaged, right? And we knew we kind of had to battle this long distance thing, and things were already a little bit rocky, so we weren't totally sure how it was going to go. But basically about like 3 weeks into the summer, we broke up, and it wasn't just like maybe we'll come back in a couple of months, see if we can make it work. Like, it was like just over. And then on top of that, I was really struggling in my job, and it's a sales job. So if I don't make any sales, I don't make any money. So I was out there working like 12 plus hours a day, getting rejected a billion times a day, making $0, right? And the breakup was really hard on me because I felt like, in a way, like I didn't have any support. And I kind of started to believe some things about myself. One was that I'm unlovable, that I'm like hard to love. It like breaks my heart thinking back on this, thinking about how I used to think that way about myself. And I also was like dealing with all these health issues after that, really, really low mental health. I'd never been so depressed, probably in my entire life. I never felt so much anxiety, so much darkness, so much fear. And another kind of like belief I kind of put on myself was that I'm a failure. And I truly didn't know how to dig myself out of this hole. It was really scary. I was like in Ohio. I wasn't with people I really knew super well. And kind of what happened is I reached out to a coach that I had met with in the past, and I loved learning from her. And I always felt like she was able to help me through a lot of my challenges. But I was just like, oh, I just like want to sell better. I just want to like be okay at my job so that I don't have to quit and like lose all this money and whatever. And I asked her to help me with that, and we sat down and we ended up talking about my relationship the whole time. And I was like, yeah, I guess this is actually tearing me apart. I just didn't want to admit it. And essentially we kind of just dove into those fears that I had around love and relationships, and that this person that I thought I was going to marry and be with for eternity was no longer in my life. And I had to just kind of come to terms with that. And I had to relearn how to love myself without somebody loving me. I had to relearn how to allow validation and love and grace into my life, because I had relied so heavily on everyone else doing that for me in the past. And so from there, we started working together, and honestly, my life transformed in a matter of a couple months. It is crazy to think of the deep sadness I felt every day of my life. And then a few months, I fast forward, and I was like the happiest I've ever been in my whole life. I was just excited to wake up every day. I had this just a fresh new start of who I was and who God knew me to be. And I just felt unstoppable. And I was just so excited about life. And that broken heart that I'd had wasn't even a part of my life anymore. It's a part of my story, but it wasn't holding me back anymore. And so in this journey of rediscovering like myself and love and compassion on myself, one day I just like, I had a thought, and it was like, you should become a coach. And I was like, okay, actually that'd be kind of cool. And ever since I had that thought, I couldn't stop thinking about it. And just literally every minute of every day, I was like, yeah, maybe I should. And then I'd like write down ideas, and like, I just felt like God was like speaking to me like every second of every day. He'd just pour revelation and ideas to me of just how I could help other people. Because the more I think about this like journey I experienced, I see it everywhere. I see so many people struggle with very similar things. And I just feel like there is so much light and love to offer. And I just want, more than anything, I just want people to like know that they're loved and that they have value and that they have purpose. And especially in kind of an interesting Christian culture where it's hard to be single. It's hard to be single because you feel like something's wrong with you if you're single, right? But I just really believe that you can have a lot of healing and a lot of purpose and a lot of value even if you're not married yet. Because my whole life, I always thought that my life didn't start till I got married. But truly, my life started after my hardest breakup. So that's kind of what led me here.
I love that. You turned your mess into your message.
Totally.
And now you're sharing it with the world.
Yeah.
This podcast isn't going anywhere either.
So
your
cool.
kids will be able to listen to your first podcast. And the fact that you turn your mess into your message, it's going to allow for, I hope your future daughter never has her heart broken. But if she does, she can listen back to this and hear the wise words from mom.
Totally. That's so cool.
So I want to talk more about that pain that you experienced. What was it? What was that heartbreak like? How did it feel? What was your thought processes? You mentioned that you relied on other people to love you because you didn't love yourself. Mm-hmm. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons why it was so hard too is maybe because I was doing a sales job where I was getting rejected, 100 times a day. We're supposed to knock around 100 doors every day, and you get doors slammed in your face. And so I think it just kind of shoved in that dark, no, we don't want to talk to you. We don't want to hear from you, that kind of thing. So I was battling, I was doing this mental battle of just trying to do my job and trying to, give value of something. But then at the same time, I had this mental battle of like, why did we have to break up? It kind of felt like he kind of gave up on the relationship. Why did he give up on me, when I've put all this effort in, I've done everything I can, just why? Kind of a lot of questions, And then I think there was also a sense of loneliness where I didn't feel like anyone understood really what I was going through and like the actual pain that I was experiencing. So yeah, it was just a mix of loneliness and a mix of betrayal and feeling sort of abandoned in one of my weakest moments. Like I was already struggling with my job and struggling with things and all the pressure that I had out there, and then the relationship was just over. And so yeah, it's difficult.
Sure. Abandoned. You're with people you don't know, not with your family. That would be hard. So you mentioned the feeling of abandonment. Did you find yourself talking to the people you loved, or did you find yourself more isolating within the job?
I mean, I had told my friends and I told my family what had happened and everything, and they're very supportive and loving, but it was like, they were like, man, I'm so sorry that happened. But then I feel like I wasn't getting answers still, I was getting the empathy, which is awesome, but it was like no one knew how to help me dig myself out of this hole. It just felt really hopeless. I didn't really feel like anyone truly understood, And I will say I was very lucky that I did have a couple of friends doing sales with me. I had my sister out there and my cousin and another girl, and we had our own little squad because we didn't really know the rest of the team very well. And so they were very loving and supportive, but at the same time, it was like I just felt like no one could truly relate to me. And there was definitely a time where I was just kind of isolating myself, Like I told them what happened, they knew I was sad, and then I was just like, I just didn't talk to people, I didn't show up. I just laid in my bed for a few days, like just mulling over everything.
Leave me alone.
Yeah, totally.
Don't talk to me.
Yeah.
And sometimes that can be okay too.
Sure.
Isolation's not in the personal development world, therapy world. It's like, oh, you're isolating. Like, what's wrong with you? Right. It's like, no, it's okay to be in self-isolation, not for an extended period of time.
Right.
But it's okay to sit inside and eat a bowl of ice cream every hour.
Totally. You have to allow yourself to be sad for a time.
So it's okay to feel your emotions.
Yeah.
So coming out of that, you mentioned reaching out to a coach. When was at that time that you were like, I need some extra help?
Yeah. I don't totally remember like what the turning point was for me, but I have like this vivid memory. I don't remember if this was before I was meeting with my coach or after, but I think another part of the isolation too is just the nature of this job is you're by yourself the whole day. You go out to a neighborhood and you just work through the neighborhood for the whole day. And you don't really talk to like people, the whole time. And so maybe that was also kind of isolating for me. But I remember knocking on some doors and being rejected a few times. They weren't even willing to even listen to me. It was like, hi, I'm Ashley, I'm with, and then the door closed, so it's like I couldn't even get a word in. Very frustrating. But I remember doing that, and then I was just like at the verge of tears. And I remember like running to my car and just like sobbing for like hours. Like I have never, like I've cried in my life many times, but I have never just like felt so just alone and so broken that I couldn't even physically get myself out of my car. Like I just couldn't do anything but cry for like hours. And I think that's where I was kind of like, man, like this is not normal. This is not okay. Like something needs to change. And again, I don't remember if that was before or after I met with my coach, because similar things happened several times where I just kind of like a mental breakdown. But yeah, I remember talking with my coach and just being like, hey, like I'm dealing with all of these things, just kind of like dumped everything on her. And I was like, this happened and this happened and this happened and this happened. And I'm just failing at everything. And yeah, I wanted to just like get through the summer and like get through my job and just like finish the job and then like process everything later and like figure out my love life later. But we like sat down and we started doing sessions, and for whatever reason, like the only thing that really came up was like the things I was experiencing in my relationship and through the heartbreak that I was experiencing.
Sure. You took responsibility and you moved forward. That's a win.
Yeah. Totally.
Either way. And
totally.
those pain we transform for one of two reasons. Either we're sick and tired of being sick and tired, or there's so much pleasure that we want to transform.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you hit the breaking point of, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. So let's go find resources. Yeah. And that's the main thing too with coaches, right? You experience coaching before being a coach. You see the power, so you're bought into it that much more. Yeah. A lot of coaches don't have coaches, and that's, go get a coach that has a coach.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Real.
I love it. So what was your process like to start to love yourself? I know you started to work with a coach, and I can only imagine that helped in that area.
Yeah.
What else were you doing to start to love yourself? Hey everyone, I want to take a quick moment to introduce you to Storm Warrior Tactical, the company that offers top quality clothing that not only looks great, but also serves as a daily reminder to conquer your own personal challenges. Check out some of my favorite picks from their website in the links below, or visit stormwarriortactical.com to explore their full range.
This like meeting with my coach was like such a turning point in my life because I started to learn different tools and practices that allowed me to love myself in ways I'd never thought of before. Like, I feel like self-love is kind of like a hot topic right now and people talk about it, but I don't think people truly understand what it means. I don't think people truly know how to do it at like a deep level. And it's funny too because my whole life, like I've never super struggled with like hating myself or anything. Like I've always been like pretty okay with myself, like pretty confident, good self-esteem. Like I've never ever felt the need to be like, man, I need to love myself more. Like it just never was like a concern for me. And so when she started like giving me like these tools and stuff and I started doing them, I was like, oh, like this is a big deal. But I would say kind of one of the things that I started to learn to do, this might sound silly, but it was just to spend time with my heart. And honestly, what that looks like is just like slowing down and letting my heart and like my spirit self kind of like come out from the dust. And just like I had to give space to allow her to be seen. My heart was like hurting, right? My heart was like experiencing all this pain and like sadness and like brokenness. And like I was just so quick to just shove it in a corner. But like I had to just spend time giving my heart space to just like come out and like say what she needs to say and feel what she needs to feel. And that can be done through like meditation or journaling or like I was really lucky because at this point in my job, I was driving like an hour and a half there and back to like the neighborhood I was working in. And so I literally would spend the whole hour and a half just like listening to my heart and just like having conversations and just being like Ashley, like, how are you doing today? Like, how are you actually doing today? What can I do for you? Like, what do you need to say? What do you need to voice? What do we need to feel today? And that was like really powerful for me. And then also on top of that, just like inviting the Savior into my painful experiences. We did a lot of like just sort of like guided exercises where I would have like a memory or just like a belief that was kind of holding me back or a negative thought or feeling about myself. And we would imagine that like Christ came in to just like abide in it and like tend to me in it. And like I knew that Christ could do that, but like I had never like truly experienced it until I let myself experience it, honestly.
You started to allow yourself to love you, and you started to allow God to love you.
Totally, yeah.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
Feeling emotions is one of the most powerful things one can do, whether it's feelings of happiness or sadness or anger.
Yeah.
Our behaviors are the act of either response or reacting. And the moment that you give yourself permission to feel your emotions, you then give yourself permission to respond instead of reacting. Reacting is the act of so-and-so pissed me off. Now I'm going to raise my voice or fight or whatever it is. It's the fight or flight method, right?
Right.
But the moment you feel, give yourself permission to feel and take responsibility for your emotions, you then get to respond. And sometimes that's just a conversation with self. Or maybe there's a heartfelt conversation with a loved one. Or maybe that's a conversation with a coach. But the moment you give yourself to respond versus react, it's the moment life changes.
Yeah, that's so good. I love that.
So in this, what were those conversations like? Was it like, were you structured in that hour and a half? I forget the timeline.
Yeah.
Well, what was it? Was it different each day? Tell us more.
Yeah, it's cool because it was a little different every day. It wasn't like do this and then do this and then say that. Like it's kind of just like it's really led by the Spirit, and it's kind of just opening up space for like God to come in and speak to you. I think a question that comes to mind that my coach taught me was ask yourself, what would love tell her? So I think of maybe like a time or a difficult moment I'm having, or thinking back on like the breakup and all the the feelings I experienced there is like, you look at that and then you go, well, what would love tell her about that? Love with capital L. So you can kind of interpret it however you want. But so I would there were days where I would just spend time like pondering that question. What would love tell her? If my heart's feeling a little bit sad today or a little bit down or a little discouraged, what does love tell her? Because us as humans, we are just so quick to like judge or like get after ourselves for being sad or whatever, right? But instead of letting my like human mind come in and criticize and be like, get your crap together or whatever it is, like it's like slowing down, just like you were saying, and just sitting back and getting a new perspective on it. What does love say about this? What does God have to say about this? What would Christ say to me in this moment? Like that moment where I was sobbing in my car for hours and I couldn't work. I couldn't do literally anything. Like, what would Christ do if he walked in? What would he say to me in that moment? And then just like allowing space and time for me to just experience that moment with him and the words that he says to me. It's like the most beautiful thing. And then you're thinking about your memories and your pain. And instead of feeling pain over them, you feel love and you feel peace. You feel hope over them. I keep this thought keeps popping into my head. There's a song by Lauren Daigle. It's called You Say. I don't know if you've heard it.
I haven't.
Oh, really?
No.
It's so good. Okay.
We'll link the song.
Like, yeah, I hope everyone knows about it. It's really good. I think it's called You Say, but the chorus is basically just about like what God says about her. And it's beautiful. And I don't know if I remember it well enough to quote it, but I often think of that song because sometimes to get out of like a yucky headspace, we just have to go, okay, God, what do you say of me? You say I'm loved. You say I'm whole. You say that I am exactly where I need to be. You know, all these things. And it's like a big relief. It's a big burden off of our backs.
That's fair. As you were speaking to that, the one thought that came to mind is, how does one that's never given themselves permission to start to feel emotions? Because that in itself is a learning curve.
Totally. That's a big deal.
And I feel like it's just to keep and say, I know it's different for each person.
For sure. Yeah.
I'm curious to know from your perspective, how does one start to feel their own emotions?
Yeah. I think first, just become aware that like, especially for my people who like their first instinct is to kind of numb out and like bury their emotions. I think it's important to realize that your body and your mind are brilliant. Like they are working and fighting for you every single day. And your nervous system and your brain, their number one job is to protect you. So sometimes we have experiences in our lives that are like really intense or really emotional. And if your nervous system is like, ooh, we don't want to feel all that. That's a bit much right now. It's just going to bury it. It's going to numb it out. And so honestly, taking a minute and just like thanking your body. Maybe it's not the most ideal thing to numb out, right? But your nervous system is protecting you. Your body is protecting, your brain is protecting you the best it knows how. It's not always necessarily the best thing at the end of the day, but for what it knows now, it's just doing its job. And so I think starting with just like, thank you. Thank you, body. Thank you, heart. Thank you, mind, for doing your best to protect me. But I'm going to take control for a minute and I'm going to allow myself to feel and process this because I know that's the only way that I'll be able to move on and move through this. The only way to get emotions out of my body is by feeling them and experiencing them. So I'd probably start there. And then from there, it's honestly kind of just making space in your day where you give yourself permission to feel. So this is something I did a lot during that summer is I'd have like a pang of like, you know, sadness in my chest. And normally my first instinct is, oh my gosh, like, don't feel sad. You got to get through the day. Like, we have to be happy. We have to do this and that, whatever. But instead, it's just slowing down and going, you know what? I'm actually going to give myself permission to feel that right now. And maybe I literally set a timer. I'm going to feel sad for 5 minutes. And then I'm going to pick up and continue on with my day. Maybe you go take a walk and you're moving your body, you're out in the sun, and you're just asking God and you're communicating with him, and you're like, okay, what do I need to feel today? Or ask your heart, what is it you need today? What do we need to process today? Just doing a little bit at a time. But truly, it's just like giving yourself the space and the permission and the allowance, and just making that like a normal thing instead of like attacking yourself for it every time. It's just kind of
You suck.
stopping. Yeah, it's kind of stopping for a second and being like, nope, we're actually making a different choice today.
Of course. And you mentioned people know how to love others. People don't truly know how to love themselves. And the truth is, you just got to talk to yourself the way, it's so simple. Talk to yourself the way your spouse wants to be talked to.
Yeah, totally.
And if you're not talking nicely to your spouse, my assumption is you're not talking nice to yourself either.
Yeah.
So start with both.
Yeah. That actually reminds me of another like tool that I love to just kind of help people learn. Is it's similar to that, but you think of like how you talk to like kids, right? Kids, they're so excited about life. They're like so full of love and like light and just happiness. And they go out and they're learning stuff every single day. And they're like learning how to walk and they're learning how to ride bikes. And never have I ever seen like a kid fall off a bike and then we're all just like, oh my gosh, you're so stupid. Like, I can't believe you did that. You messed up again. Like, never would we ever do that, right? But we do that to ourselves.
The unhealthy people of the world might.
Yeah, maybe.
Really go work on yourself if you're doing that.
Please, yes. Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness. This is why we have to heal in this time in our life so we can pass on healing and you know, love to our children. But something I love to do is I love to, I don't know, I know like some therapists do this too, but you can take a picture or find a picture of your younger self and you put it somewhere where you see all the time. Maybe it's like your wallpaper, maybe it's on your mirror, and you just tell her why you love her, or you just tell her things you appreciate about her every day. Another thing that I've done is to think about like the pain, the heartbreak, the brokenness that I feel. And I imagine that like my little 7-year-old self comes up to me and is like experiencing those same things. She's like, oh my gosh, I feel like a failure. I feel like so unlovable. You hear like a kid say that and you immediately have compassion on them. And so I love just like imagining, you know, like what would I say to her? What would I do for her? What can I, like, I'm going to give her a big hug and I'm going to tell her that she is like so special and like beautiful and amazing and like she's so loved and there's nothing she could ever do to like separate from love.
Absolutely.
Because like we truly are like our younger selves in a way, you know?
Oh yeah.
And
definitely.
I think we can learn a lot from our younger selves, and we can learn a lot by loving on our younger selves too.
I love that. What came to mind when you were saying that is Psychology 101. Is your past ultimately creates your triggers in life.
Yeah.
And whatever's happening moment to moment ultimately creates thoughts. Your thoughts create emotions. Your emotions create your behaviors of either responding or reacting. Your behaviors create your results. From there, your results validate your triggers, whether the trigger's positive or negative. Mm-hmm. There's not a lot of gray space. Something's usually always positive or negative.
Yeah.
It's just the way the world works with energy.
Yeah, it's true.
To that, what you're speaking on is, hey, we're going to go look at the past. We're going to go look at past triggers. And as you start to transform those thoughts, those emotions, tying it to your younger selves, naturally, without doing anything else, your behaviors are going to change. You're going to respond differently over reacting, which will create different behaviors, creating different results, creating new triggers, so that you can love yourself more fully on a subconscious level.
Yeah.
We can consciously say, I love you, Braden,
Totally.
or I love you, so-and-so. I love myself. Subconsciously, when it's in your subconscious, is the moment that your life truly transforms.
Yeah.
And to speak to that, do you know what 3 key elements is?
I don't think so.
Okay, so I'm not going to say they're not like a big deal anymore, because they're still huge and they're still making a major impact. They just went from live events. They still, I'll say, in-person events to online events.
Okay.
I used to go to their in-person events all the time, and I just had Ann Washburn on, which is a director over their events. I don't know if that's the right words, but she's a body language expert.
Oh, interesting.
And I just had her on Thursday, and I obviously have known about body language for a while, but I've never studied it fully myself. But the one thing that she says is your body can't lie to you. It's the way that you walk, the way you talk, when you hunch over, it's all subconscious. So what she spoke on, and this really relates to it, is as you start to feel your emotions, as you start to work through those negative thoughts, negative behaviors, and you start to transition to start to love yourself without anybody else, you just simply love yourself, is body language. And I always thought of body language as a way to read somebody. But she talked about body language as a way to ask a question or to observe, to be a better resource for yourself or others. So she talked about the act of starting by looking yourself in the eyes in the mirror was step one. If you can look yourself in the mirror in your eyes and look yourself in the eyes for a couple of seconds without wanting to look away, that's step one. And that would be my question to anybody listening to this is, when was the last time you actually looked yourself in the eye? Some people look and they get scared.
Yeah.
It's like, just sit in that discomfort. Step two, once you can do that, you can truly just sit in presence with self, is to look yourself in the eye and ultimately start to be okay. I might be quoting this wrong, but be okay with your first name and last name. I am Braden Belknap. Say that while you look yourself in the eye. It's the most powerful affirmation.
Cool. Yeah.
And as to preface this, there's a lot of people that don't agree with affirmations or declarations.
Right.
The problem is they're saying, I'm rich, I'm wealthy, and then they're thinking, I'm actually not.
Yeah.
When affirmations or declarations become powerful, whether it's I am, my first name, last name, or a different one, is the moment you give permission to feel the emotion. I am Braden Belknap. How does that feel? Or your first and last name. That's for me. How does that feel? Allow yourself to feel that emotion. And then step three was looking yourself in the mirror, arms down, not being able to hide anything because your body doesn't lie. You say, I love myself. And if your body disagrees with it, it'll wiggle in a certain area. And obviously different areas of your body mean different things.
Yeah.
But it's a way of saying, you actually don't agree with that. So how can we, once you create that awareness, you then can go have those conversations with self or God on how to transform that.
Wow. That's really cool. That's amazing. I'm a huge believer in just the way our bodies communicate with us. And that's cool. I'm going to try that.
I was in the podcast. I was like, 1 second, let me go check real quick. I love myself. Let me go double check that that's true.
Yeah, make sure that's true. That's awesome.
She was amazing. But
cool.
I thought I wanted to add that in just because I feel this goes so well with the act of loving self and feeling those emotions.
Yeah. Wow.
But being single as a Christian in your 20s or even late teens is like, what's wrong with you? Yeah. So I'd love to talk about that for a second and how you have overcome that. Because there's a lot of Christians listening to this podcast.
Yeah.
And fortunately, a lot of them are single. Unfortunately, a lot of them feel that there's a problem with them because of it. So how have you overcome that?
Yeah. Oh, man, that's a big thing. Honestly, I think the first thing to understand is the idea that you have to be married by a certain age or something is just something that we totally made up in the social culture world. It's totally made up, and something that really was the beginning turning point of me being okay with being single and being okay that I'm not gonna actually get married this year as those years I thought I was, is to first realize that yes, marriage is a beautiful thing, and I'm sure it's very healing and amazing and very fulfilling and all of these things. And I just truly think that God, gives us desires in our hearts. And if he has placed a desire, like a dream or a passion or something in your heart, it's a promised blessing for you. So if you have a desire to have a beautiful, healthy marriage, that's promised for you. The problem is we think that like our path of life is like, you know, we start here, and then like marriage is right here, and there's like a straight line. And we're like, yeah, this will be easy. No big deal. Because like everyone else did it. Everyone else like went on their mission, came back from their mission, got married a couple months after. Like, and then you're over here and you're like, wait, you start to realize that like, actually my path isn't straight. It's starting to look like this. And it's like all over the place. And like maybe going backwards and, you know, and so then you feel like you're still clear over here and your dream is like way over here. And it feels so far away, and you're like, well, I must be on the wrong path. I must have like messed up or made a wrong choice. But if we can learn to accept that like the path that was like all squiggly and crazy and all over the place, that is actually the path that God made for you. That's the story that God wrote for you. And to journey and to move along these ups and downs on your path, like that is the journey, and experiencing those things is what is going to make you the person that you need to be able to become to have that dream. And that dream and that desire is going to be even more fulfilling and more beautiful because of everything you experienced before. So that was huge for me when I realized that. And if you kind of think about it this way, it's like, well, if like God came down and he was like, by the way, you're going to be married to your eternal companion, your soulmate, your person in 3 years on this day, how would you spend the next 3 years knowing that? That's like how I like to think about it. And I love asking people that because they're usually like, oh, well, I'd probably like stop sitting around being like hating my life. I'd probably like go do some fun things, and I'd probably like start that dream career I've always wanted to start, and like all these things. And they get all excited and they're like, oh, and then like I wouldn't be worried about dating. I wouldn't be scared about breakups because I just know that like it's going to happen. And so you kind of have to like go about with that, like that amount of hope and that amount of faith, and just realize that like your life is meaningful right now, and your life has purpose right now, and your life is a gift right now. And there's actually a reason that you're single. It's not because something's wrong with you, but it's because there are lives that you get to bless, and there are experiences and healing that you get to have right now. And also, like, the more I've done this like work, the more that I've like, you know, discovered like who I am and what I'm capable of, it's like I'm so glad that that original relationship didn't work out, because I'm such a different person today. And the healing that I've experienced is something like I want to pass on to my future family, right? It's like something that I need to carry with me through my marriage and through to my kids in the future. And so I truly like wouldn't have it any other way. So like I'm a huge, huge advocate for like doing the work, doing the healing work from your past relationships, anywhere you feel like not worthy enough for like healthy love. You need to sort that out, because there's a lot of beauty right now, but there's going to be even more beauty too as you enter into a relationship where you've done a lot of healing.
Absolutely. Well said. Well said. What came to mind as you were talking about that is we need to think about the entire plan, not a part of the plan.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is, as I've been coaching over the last couple of years, the biggest problem people get is they get so laser focused on one key area in life where they forget the others. Mm-hmm. For example, I worked with a client a couple of months ago, and they were so focused on their relationship. Same aspect.
Yeah.
I'm my late 20s. I haven't found my dream girl. I haven't found that relationship. I feel at this point I should have had a kid by now, maybe even on our way to have two. I should have it's the shoulds. Mm-hmm. And in that process, he lost his spirit health, his mind health, his body health, which naturally set him up to not ever find his dream girl.
Yeah.
Because he wasn't operating out of being the dream man for another woman. Yeah. And when we take a step back and say, okay, one, what's God's plan? Let's be real. God knows best. Mm-hmm. We can argue with him. He's going to be right every time.
Yeah.
And yes, argue with God. It's good because it allows for good conversation. But again, he's always going to be right. Mm-hmm. Your dad might say that. Your dads can be wrong sometimes.
Yeah.
Can't say that to God. But 2, the person closest to God about your plan is you. So everybody can have something to say. Mm-hmm. I mean, you had hopes and dreams for you before you even were born.
Yeah.
You know, mom and dad figured out they were pregnant, and grandma and grandpa over here is like, we're going to have a professional soccer player or whatever it was, right? You had hopes and dreams for you before you were even here. But the person that knows best, aside from God, is you. And the moment you stop lying to yourself of maybe so-and-so's right, maybe so-and-so's right. The moment you stop lying to yourself and say, this is my truth, and this is the truth I'm going to live and operate out of today, is the moment you give yourself permission to live an abundant life and a holistic life full of love and hope and faith and happiness and joy, instead of, since I don't have this part figured out, everything else is bad.
Right.
The moment you say, okay, this is the person I want to be. This is the spirit health I want to have. This is the mindset I want to have. This is the body I want to have. And you go chase that first and foremost. Because without health, what do you have? Nothing.
Right.
You won't ever get married.
Totally.
Go focus on that. It's like that will set you up to naturally find your partner in life that you actually want.
Yeah.
Because if you're being a slob because you're not married to somebody or don't have a girlfriend, what happens when you go to a party and you're like, check that girl out? But then in the back of your mind, you're going to think, well, I'm a slob right now, and she deserves better. Well, cool thing about that is you can become better so that when you see that girl again in public, you can go ask her for a number.
There you go.
Or vice versa. If you're a woman out here listening to this, make yourself the best version of yourself. Then you can go ask a man for his number. Doesn't have to, you can go both ways, right?
Yeah, sure, yeah.
As long as he pays for dinner, then we're good.
Definitely. I love that.
But point being is think big picture.
Yeah.
That down moment in your life of maybe some financial hardship or relationship hardship or that breakup. It's like, that's pretty meaningless in the perspective that I know at some point in my life, I will be financially free.
Right.
Oh, that fight's probably not worth threatening divorce because I love this girl and I want to be with her forever. These small moments of hardship become a lot less meaningful when you look big picture. Yeah,
absolutely. I also think that it's just fun to work on yourself. Like, I don't know. I feel like some people are like, oh, I don't want to like look at all my demons and figure them out. But like, truly, like, it's been so fulfilling. Like, I think that's one of the biggest reasons why like my single life has felt just like very exciting and like fun, because like I am growing. I am becoming like the kind of person that I would want to marry, right? And it's just fun. Like, I can't think of another word for it. It's just exciting to watch yourself grow and like become, because I feel like I've become like closer to God through it all. Because I'm like seeing his plan, like you're saying, like the grand scheme of things. And I'm seeing like what he wants me to become. And I'm becoming more of that. And I feel closer to him because of it. And it's like, this is why we're on earth. Like, this is why we're here, is to like grow and to become like God, like truly. And like, there's nothing better than that. Like, there's nothing more fulfilling and joyful and loving than that.
Amen to that. The concept that came to mind is you're essentially, every single person in this world is essentially a pie. And there's lightness in yourself and there's darkness. There's really not a lot of gray space. Like, either your characteristic about you is good or bad. What in that pie, to make it gamified and fun, because growth is fun, what percentage of your pie is light and what percentage of it is darkness? And how quickly can you turn your pie to be 100% light?
Yeah.
By the way, there's always going to be darkness. Let's be real.
For sure. Yeah.
But we can always strive to
cool.
heal ourselves, to go knock that demon out and get it out of our lives.
Yeah, totally.
And the last thing that I have on this topic is, what if you were to live forever? Which, if you believe in God, you do. I believe in God.
Yeah.
Would you ever settle?
Oh my goodness. No. I love thinking about just the idea that like God sees us as limitless, like infinite beings, right? And like he sees our potential as like limitless and just amazing and brilliant. And then we like come to this earth and we're like, oh, I don't know about that anymore. But I love thinking about that because, yeah, it's just like living forever could be just like just a cool journey, a cool like discovery journey of, yeah, becoming more like God. And it gives you more time to do so, which is cool.
Yeah.
Because it's a process.
Absolutely. Because the question that I ask often is, if you were to live forever, how would you go about this current situation that you're facing? If we're looking at being single right now, and let's just say somebody's 25, 27, maybe even 30s or even 40s.
Right.
If you were to live forever, would you ever give up on yourself? And would you ever give up on actually finding a significant other that you truly want to be with forever?
That's cool. I think it takes away the pressure of like, oh my gosh, I'm running out of time. You know, especially in this culture where we're like, if you're not married by 22, you're a failure. Like, it's like, oh no, I have plenty of time. I've got nothing but time and I have a whole world to see. And there's however billion people in the world. So like, if that last person wasn't for me, then someone else is even better for me. Like, period, you know?
Absolutely. And it's the trials, like your heartbreak. That's so unfortunate. You don't wish that upon anybody. I don't wish that upon anybody. Although that relationship and those hardships now has gifted you, that mess has gifted you power for your future relationship.
Yeah, totally.
Hey, that communication didn't work with so and so. Let's try something new.
Yeah.
Or
exactly.
something of that
Exactly.
nature, right?
Exactly. Yep.
I love that. Well, I could keep talking to you, Ashley. You've been great.
I know.
This has been fun, and I'm so excited to see your growth journey of speaking, coaching, podcasting. This is going to be fun.
Thanks.
If there was one last thing that you could leave with the audience today, what would that be?
I would say to just remember the God that made you. And he made you a certain way for a reason. And you don't have to like change anything about yourself, like at a core level. You don't have to like be prettier, cooler, whatever to be like loved. Because the more that you can be the person that God created you to be, that he intended you to be, that's where life feels whole and full of love and abundant and peaceful. I think that's how we're meant to live life, truly. So really relying on how God made you, remembering that and knowing it. Yeah.
It's like here for us earthly beings. You give somebody a gift, they open it up and they're like, woo, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Like that feeling. Like, oh, I did good. Because the other aspect is somebody not feeling excited and be like, I didn't do very good. The act of showing up with the gifts that God has gifted you. And I'm going to bring it back. You mentioned, I'm going to quote this so wrong, so please correct me. But you mentioned those like hopes and dreams that we have.
Yeah.
That's a promise from God for the future.
Yeah.
When you live in that, that's like you opening up God's gifts and being like, woo, this is awesome. Like, I love this, God. Thank you so much. I'm going to go make this happen.
Yeah.
I'm going to go build this Lego set or whatever it is, right?
Yep.
And that's God smiling. He's like, well done.
Yeah.
Because that's my hope. If there's anything, like if I die, what I want to hear is, well done, Braden. Like you killed it out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now let's go make heaven better in some ways with your message. I don't know.
For sure,
I don't know what happens when I die. Not necessarily looking forward to that anytime soon, but it's up to God.
That's fair.
So I love that. Now, what is your definition of an authentic life?
I think it is just kind of what we've been talking about, like discovering like who you are and listening to like your inner truth and listening to your desires, following your desires, and yeah, just living like the life that you feel God is calling you to. And I think the way to do that in a fulfilling way is by loving yourself, having grace on yourself, seeing, that your trials can be blessings. I think they're there for a reason, and they're beautiful. They're meant to become beautiful on the other side. And yeah, just listening to like who you really are and what you really want out of life. Because if you hide those desires in your heart, it's like what you were saying, it's like taking a gift and just like throwing it away or like burning it or something. Right? And then God's like, oh my gosh, like he's sad. So truly like moving forward in that joy of like, oh my gosh, like we have so many gifts and we're so blessed and we have just miracles left and right if you look for them, and just like embracing that and having gratitude in that.
Absolutely. I love that. Thank you so much, Ashley. Is there anything that me and my audience can be doing for you?
Oh man, you can follow me on Instagram if you want to learn.
Dill. I know I'll be linking all your socials below so they
Perfect.
can follow along.
Yeah.
Thank you so much again.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you.
Thank you again so much for listening to the Journey to Authenticity podcast. If you liked what you heard from Ashley and I, go ahead and subscribe and leave a review. So this helps me to get the most qualified and most interesting guests for the show to ultimately move your needle forward. Also, while I have you here, I want to bring your attention to my speaking. If you have a company or an event with 5+ people and you want a message that isn't just inspirational, but it's transformational, go ahead and go to the link below or go to bradenbelknap.com. I'll look forward to working with you. Thank you so much and have a good day.